When you think of Texas, what may come to mind is cowboy hats and cattle. What you probably don't think of are palm tree-lined avenues and beaches with crashing waves. This is South Padre Island, a tropical paradise at the very tip of Texas. It's named after Padre José Nicolás Bailly, a Spanish priest who established the first permanent settlement there in the early 1800s. It's also the setting of our beach vacation getaway in the fall of 2024. So join my wife Angie and I once again as we share our road trip adventure with you. I'm Mike Galgano, and we're calling this one Tropical Tex-scape. South Padre is a barrier island in the Gulf of Mexico located at the southeastern end of Texas, only a few miles from the Mexican border. It's around 600 miles from where we live, just north of Dallas. Driving non-stop without heavy traffic takes close to 9.5 hours on average. Opting for a more leisurely journey, we decided to break it up by staying overnight halfway there. Setting out for the first leg of our road trip, we said goodbye to the traffic and congestion of downtown Dallas, and we're out on the open road before we knew it. Of course, it wouldn't be a Texas road trip without making a pit stop at Buc-ee's. This time, we visited the Hillsboro location, which had just opened a few months earlier. As soon as you walk through the doors, the familiar aroma of candied nuts and sweets fills the air. At the meat station, brisket was getting a generous coating of barbecue sauce. I think they have enough to go around. Resisting the strong urge to load up on souvenirs and junk food, we got back on the road. Thanks to a helpful tip from more seasoned Texas road trippers, we switched from I-35 over to US 77 around Waco and avoided the traffic that usually builds up around Austin and San Antonio.
In 600 feet at the traffic circle, take the second exit onto US 77 South Robinson Drive.
It was a relaxing yet efficient route as we could travel at high speeds for long stretches, slowing down only occasionally as we passed through some charming and quaint small towns. We had gotten a bit of a late start leaving North Texas, so it was already nightfall by the time we reached our last stop for day one. We had booked a hotel along US 77 right where it meets Interstate 10 in a town called Schulenburg, which is German for school town. We learned about this town from one of our favorite Texas travel shows, The Day Tripper. Thanks, Chet. Apparently, we're not the only ones who consider this place a halfway point when driving across the state. Soon after checking in, we called it a night so we could rest up for the second half of the drive to the island. After a good night's rest, we got up early to catch the hotel breakfast service and then took a stroll around outside to get some fresh air and see what Schulenburg looked like in the daylight. Walking past the hotel pool, we discovered a cute covered picnic area as well as a palm tree, foreshadowing the tropical scenery to come later that day. After checking out and confirming our reservation at the end of the week for the way back home, we set out once again on US 77. Much like the previous day, our route was dotted with small towns and wide open spaces in between. Also like the previous day, my once trusty GoPro was starting to act up. Given that it is several generations old, I figured it was time to finally upgrade. So as we neared the larger city of Victoria, we made a quick stop at Best Buy at Victoria Mall so I could grab the latest model. Gotta have reliable gear if you want to record memories. As we got further and further south, we began to see more and more palms, increasing those vacation vibes. Making our way down State Highway 48, we finally started passing some bodies of water and eventually reached the scenic town of Port Isabel, the last stop on the mainland before the island. After driving nearly 3/4 of the length of the Lone Star State, we were excited to finally reach the Queen Isabella Causeway, taking us over the Laguna Madre Bay to South Padre Island. Having vacationed extensively in southeast Florida, it was hard to believe we were still in Texas as it looked a lot more like the Sunshine State down here. Just a couple of miles up the road, we arrived at our vacation rental, taking in the amazing view from the balcony of the waterfront condo. At that point, it was time for dinner. Needing to stretch our legs after hours in the car, we were delighted to find a nice restaurant just a 5-minute walk from the condo. After a great meal at Blackbeard's, we walked back and got settled in, happy to be done with the long drive and ready to officially start our island vacation. Being in a vacation rental versus a hotel, we had our breakfast in the condo each morning, enjoying the cool breezes and Gulf view on the balcony. Then started each day's activities dining out for lunch. For our first day on the island, we drove over to Viva. The bayside view was nice, but it was a bit warm on the patio even in the shade. Our meal was tasty, although in hindsight, I probably should have asked for the sauce on the side for my dish. I never imagined shrimp could drown. Our next stop was the South Padre Island Visitor Center to check out the local attractions. They have an information desk when you first walk in, as well as a room full of brochures detailing everything there is to do on the island, as well as nearby Port Isabel across the bay. We booked a sunset dinner cruise for the next day with Southern Waves Sailing Charters, a company we had seen on another favorite travel show, the Texas Bucket List. After collecting brochures, we headed back north up Padre Boulevard to visit the South Padre Island Birding, Nature Center, and Alligator Sanctuary. Upon entering the facility, we were met with the reptile tanks. Check out these baby alligators. Somehow they look more cute than menacing at that age. The top floor of the building offers a panoramic view of the Laguna Madre Bay and the Nature Center's network of walkways stretching out into the water. Heading back downstairs and outside, we walked along these piers dotted with shaded bird blinds for observation of the local wildlife. Many different species of birds visit the area, and if you look closely, you can spot them amongst the lush vegetation. The shallow waters of the bay also reveal the presence of jellyfish and other sea life. Back up towards the building, we saw some adult gators basking in the warm island air. Smile for the camera. Around the corner were some friendly tortoises who seemed eager to walk over and say hello. The butterfly garden was closed, but Angie decided to pose as one before we left the Nature Center. The next destination was back on the southern end of the island at Isla Blanca Park. Entering the park area, visitors are greeted by the Jesus of the Fisherman statue. This monument honors those fishermen who tragically lost their lives at sea. The steps of the statue are adorned with flowers and other objects left by their friends and loved ones. It truly is a beautiful and moving tribute to the memory of these poor souls. Further into Isla Blanca Park are boardwalks that lead to the beach, as well as large pavilions with restrooms and picnic tables. It's a great place to visit the beach on South Padre Island if you're not staying in beachfront accommodations. After checking out the lovely Gulf views, we were ready for some dinner, so we literally rode off into the sunset in search of something to eat. We wound up at Bar Louie, a restaurant inside the Marriott Courtyard Hotel. Our meal was accented by live music from a guitar duo named Davila. For copyright purposes, I'm not using the original audio here, but trust me, these guys rocked. Our last stop of the evening was the Blue Marlin Supermarket to grab some light groceries for the condo before calling it a night. Mid-morning on day 4, I got a phone call from Southern Waves letting me know that the sunset cruises for the rest of the week were regrettably canceled due to mechanical issues with the boat. So instead, we looked through the brochures we collected the day before to find alternate plans. We opted for a dolphin watch tour with Captain Murphy's Isla Tours. Making our way down to the marina, we checked in and then had lunch at the nearby Mahi Nick's restaurant. This place had the largest crinkle fries we had ever seen. Hey, everything's bigger in Texas, right? Shortly after lunch, it was time to get on the boat. We met 2 very friendly women in the boarding area, Cheryl, who lives on the island, and her friend Susan, who was visiting from California. If you ladies happen to see this video, it was so nice meeting you. The boat captain and crew were funny and informative, providing a lot of interesting information about the area. At one point, they even had some live starfish to observe up close before releasing them back into the water. And of course, we got to see some dolphins. They apparently love to swim ahead of seafaring vessels, and in this case, they escorted a large cargo ship that was in the bay at the same time as our tour. It was really cool to see the island from out on the water. The tour also provided a great view of the Queen Isabella Causeway. Speaking of the causeway, after finishing our bay cruise, we drove back over to the mainland to visit the town of Port Isabel. Just after crossing the bridge, we came across the famous lighthouse, which sits atop a small hill as a beacon to ships passing through the bay. Visitors can actually climb the steep interior spiral staircase to get a 360-degree view of the area, but they were about to close for the day by the time we got there. Full disclosure though, a mix of claustrophobia and fear of heights would have kept me on the ground regardless of the lighthouse hours. Across from the lighthouse, right on the waterfront, is Pirates Landing, featuring restaurants and some fishing piers that extend pretty far out into the bay. Walking along these afforded an even closer view of the causeway from the water level, as well as a chance to catch the sunset. We finished the day's sightseeing at the Pirates Landing restaurant itself, sitting by the window to enjoy yet another meal with a view. Walking back to the car after dark, we turned to take one final glance at the iconic lighthouse. As the young folks say, it was lit. Driving back to the island, we headed back to the condo to get some sleep. Our outings on day 5 commenced with a quick lunch at Tom and Jerry's. We then headed over to Sea Turtle Incorporated per a recommendation from a local we met on the Dolphin Cruise. Thanks again, Cheryl. Inside the building are a number of large tanks where you can get some up-close views of these gentle creatures. The facility serves to protect sea turtles through conservation, medical care, and research. Throughout the day, there are various presentations where you can learn more about the turtles and the type of work Sea Turtle Inc. does to promote their safety and survival. Although it was October, it was still pretty warm outside, and with a good bit of the Sea Turtle facility being outdoors, we were eager to cool off. So our next stop was a casual air-conditioned drive to the far north end of State Road 100. At this point, the road comes to a dead end. Nothing but sand dunes and beaches lie ahead for the next 22 miles or so it would take to reach the northern end of South Padre Island. Beyond that is the man-made Port Mansfield Channel, which split the original Padre Island into its northern and southern pieces. Along State Road 100 are various places to access the beach. There's even a place where you can ride horses along the coast. The sand here seemed more fine and lighter colored than the more dense and packed version we saw on the beach outside our condo rental. And it's that more compact type of sand that allows for one of the more creative things South Padre Island is known for: sand castles. Back in town off Laguna Boulevard, you will find the Holiday Sand Sculpture Village. It's technically free to get in, but they politely prompt for a donation, which we gladly made to support local artists. It's truly amazing what people can create out of just sand and water. By this time it was getting close to sundown, so we walked across the street where they had a scenic park and plenty of waterfront restaurants. After watching the sunset over the bay, we grabbed dinner where else but Tequila Sunset, where we were again treated to a live band. I didn't catch the name of these gentlemen, but they were good as well. It was a perfect way to end the evening. After running around the island all week, we decided to take it easy on our last full day in South Padre by enjoying the beach right outside our rental. Aside from the obvious benefit of scenic views right outside your window, it's so convenient to stay someplace right on the water rather than worry about getting back in your vehicle with damp swimwear and sand in your shoes. Let's head down there. At the time of our visit, a severe hurricane was moving along the eastern side of the Gulf. And while there was no immediate danger to the Texas coast this time, the current was unusually strong. The incoming waves would practically knock you over even standing in waist-deep water, and then pull at your ankles with a forceful grip as the tide receded. Given the rough waters and posted warning flags, we decided it was safer to cool off in the condo pool. Ah, very refreshing. Back upstairs, we got showered and watched the sunset from the front porch of the condo. Tomorrow tomorrow we were leaving the island, so we picked up a few last-minute souvenirs, topped off the gas tank, and ended our culinary adventures in South Padre the same way we started them, with a visit to Blackbeard's. Friday morning, we checked out of the vacation rental, took our last trip down the palm tree-lined streets of South Padre and back over the causeway. Our eventual destination for the evening would be another overnight stay in Schulenburg. Rather than going back the way we came, however, we planned to spend a couple of hours in Corpus Christi as I had never been there. Over the next 2.5 to 3 hours, we crossed many bridges, some wide-open farmland, and even a border checkpoint. Eventually, we reached downtown Corpus and got our first glimpse of the bay. The drive down Shoreline Boulevard was quite scenic, with skyscrapers rising up along the waterfront. As we entered the marina, we found a parking spot and walked up to the first point of interest we had come to see, a statue commemorating the memory of Selena Quintanilla Perez. The lovely and talented singer, who went simply by her first name, was dubbed the Queen of Tejano music. She quickly rose to fame and was poised to be a crossover artist recording songs in both Spanish and English before her life was tragically cut short at the young age of 23. The monument is named Mirador de la Flor, which translates to Overlook of the Flower. Hundreds of adoring fans visit the statue every week to pay their respects. It is certainly a beautiful tribute and a must-see when visiting Corpus Christi. Making our way down towards the bay, we had lunch at Landry's Seafood House, a floating restaurant with great views of the marina. With outstanding service and delicious food, it was easily the best meal of our whole vacation. Next, we took a stroll along the waterfront to walk off some of those calories. It was a beautiful part of town, but the extreme heat of the midday sun and the fact that we were on a tighter schedule that day demanded that we get moving to see a couple more attractions before leaving the city. Next up was a trip over to South Staples Street to see a replica of the original Whataburger, a Texas favorite that started as a small hamburger stand in Corpus Christi back in 1950. The painted replica stand is located in the parking lot of a modern-day, fully operating Whataburger. Our last stop in Corpus was a rocky beach area to get a peek at the USS Lexington aircraft carrier, which has been converted to a museum. We didn't have time to go inside the vessel, but we wanted to at least get some photos while we were in the area. After a quick visit to a souvenir shop, it was time to get back on the road. Enjoying our last views of the Texas coast for this trip, we made our way back inland, eventually rejoining US 77 and arriving back in Schulenburg as the daylight hours gave way to early evening. Although the hotel stay included breakfast, maybe we still had Whataburger on the brain after coming from Corpus and there was one right next door. Across the highway was a large gas station and convenience store called the Texan. Curiosity got the best of me, so I took the car over there to fuel up for the last leg of our journey and took a peek inside. It reminded me of a smaller scale version of another Texas chain of convenience stores, although there were no beaver mascots in sight. As we left Schulenburg, we quickly approached the town of LaGrange, made famous by the ZZ Top song of the same name. It was nice to see the winding hilltop views in the daylight as we had passed through this area in the dark on the way down the week before. Coming down from the hill, we crossed the Colorado River that runs over 800 miles through Texas. Not to be confused with the Colorado River, which flows through the western United States, including the Grand Canyon. As before, we used US 77 to bypass the traffic through Austin and cut over to I-35 around Temple, Texas. A few hours later, we were back in familiar surroundings as we approached downtown Dallas. The whole trip was a little over 1,300 miles for the week, and this vehicle has now seen more of Texas than all of my previous cars combined. It was a very interesting and fun road trip, but that brings this journey to a close. As always, thanks for letting us share our vacation memories with you. We'll see you in the next one.